often you have this risk of a competition. And that's what we really try to avoid, because if you are going into this, we will definitely fail. We aim for collaboration between the global teams and the local teams to really also empower both sides and get the best out of it.
Hello and welcome to the Data Culture Podcast. I'm Carsten Bange, founder, CEO of Bark, and with me is again Florian Bigelmaier, who is signaling you that we have another Data Festival special edition. We have again two guests of the Data Festival here in the podcast today. It is Claire Pfeil. She is the COE lead for IT analytics at ING in Germany, so the local unit. And then we have Frank Fischer, and he is the CEO lead for analytics engineering at ING Globe. And we get a few insights into their daily practice, aren't we, Florian?
Yeah, absolutely. We will have a look on the question, how can you actually mature and create impact from agentic AI and generative AI in general, which means how do you set up proper practices? What are the upsides and downsides of those models, and how to integrate them in processes which agentic AI promises. And also the question on how to bring the business experts alongside with you to make that all a success for the complete company.
Yeah, so lots of relevant insights and topics. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Claire. Hi, Frank. Great to have you on the Data Culture Podcast.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Carsten. Indeed, great to be here.
So the first question we would like to ask you on this podcast is actually, what is your expertise and what are you working on at ING? And we heard that you're working on chatbots, agentic AI, generative AI. What is like your role in that you're, for example, also analytics experts, and how does that work together with the expertise, for example, of data scientists, machine learning experts, software engineers, and so on?
I would try first answer. When it comes to AI and the modern solution it offers, it's nice to try them out and know what they can do. But then in the second step, you have to make sure you get results and profits, your organization in your day-to-day work. And that's where we both come in, because we, let's say, integrate the models into the ING infrastructure, meaning building the data pipelines that are sending that necessary data to the models and then the results of the models to the systems in order to use them.
And I think since both Claire and I are in tech, we also have a different angle on what this means in the end, right? Especially these days, everyone can do analytics with the LLMs out there. But really bringing something into production, that's where tech is required. And that's also where we come into play, and where we, at least I think, play a crucial role with our teams that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like it. We see also in this discussion, and if we look at the agenda of the upcoming Data Festival, that a lot of organizations are exactly in this step. Yeah, I think many know what they want to do, but now it's really about operationalizing, scaling, bringing to production, as you mentioned. So super interesting topic, and we surely want to know more about that. But before we do that, maybe you can give us a bit of an idea of a size. So how many people are overall maybe working with data analytics, AI, and then specifically AI? Yeah, what size of organization is behind that?
Oh, in my global team, we are about 120 people in tech, and there's many more on the analytics side. So we have this matrix organization at ING, of course, where we have tribes containing customer journey experts, data scientists, data analysts, and engineers. And these are separated also in the hierarchy lines between CO and CTO.
The numbers I can tell you are a little smaller. Our team is about 20 experts. But like Frank said, it's hard for me to tell the number for the whole bank, because right now really every department is
Mhm.
exploring AI. So it's almost everybody. It's not only a customer process thing, also internal thing, software development, how to test your software, lots of questions that people try to solve and optimize using all kinds of AI methods.
We also will go a bit into that during our presentation, how we organize through this, especially in a federated way, how we try to solve and approach this.
Yeah, I think that already points to like maybe a little glimpse to what you may be saying in Munich then later. So ING is obviously, as you already said, a global bank, a multinational with a lot of local teams and a strong office probably in the Netherlands. And could you maybe give us like an idea on how that can be balanced in a good way? The topic of having a strong global team and also still innovating locally.
We tried to innovate and experiment centrally in the beginning, especially when GenAI and Agentic AI appeared, right? We also need to know what is relevant for us, how much can we do, how much value can we get out of this, and how fast can we then also get that value out of it and distribute it further into the organization.
So this topic of balance between central and let's say local decentralized tasks and functions and ownership and governance is always a big topic. Did you find a good solution for that? Would you say that it's working?
I think I've been working now in the data science field for some years. When I started, it wasn't even called data science. We called it data mining and stuff, and there were no data scientists. We just started from scratch. And since that time, I would say we are constantly looking for the best way to deal with things. And there are always centralized models competing with more decentralized models. You can look at the data. We were dreaming of one huge data warehouse, a single point of truth where all kinds of data was stored centrally, and all you had to do is just go there and grab the data. And did it work? Not really. Does it work when everybody has just his data as he wants to? Every local entity of ING, for instance, stores the data anywhere they want. That doesn't work either, because you want to be able to connect the data and use them in a sensible way. So I think it always has to be a mixture of both. And you always have the advantages and the flaw of both models. So I would say it's a constant search for the best way to do it. And Frank and I, we are trying to find the sweet spot of, let's say, what do we have to centralize? What can we hand over to the local units? And also, how can the local units maybe also help the central unit in their experiments? Maybe building something special for a country helps also the global organization building something more in a general way. So it's a constant exchange, a constant search for the sweet spot, I would say. So will we find the sweet spot? I'm not sure. We are going to get near it.
And maybe a small remark, because that's also important what Claire mentioned. Often you have this risk of a competition, and that's what we really try to avoid, because if you are going into this, we will definitely fail. We aim for collaboration between the global teams and the local teams to really also empower both sides and get the best out of it.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely something that adopts and changes, because also maturity changes on the one side. Use cases change, they're constantly innovative, new ideas, and technology changes also. Sometimes there are also no possibilities. So I think this will be an ongoing state, and maybe that's the takeaway here. That a fixed state might not be the right answer, or like or one answer that is stable for a long time. That's probably not one. Let's look into your core task in a way. So what did you find are the biggest challenges in trying to bring AI into production, into the organization, and as you said, Claire, in the beginning, to really generate value also out of AI?
I think it's not a technical thing. It's more an organizational thing, because I think we have to get used to a new way of working with AI. When I learned AI, there were data scientists, and their role was very clear. They had to build new models, and then there were engineers putting them into production. Nowadays, that the large language models are already very far in their development. I don't suppose we will try to develop this kind of models by ourselves. So the roles inside an organization have to be kind of refined. So how will IT and data scientists and the business departments actually work together to bring one solution into production? And also maybe the second thing, AI is very great at some things, but is not the one tool to solve every kind of problem. And I think that's also a mindset topic that we have to learn to use the models for what they are meant to be used, and not try to use them for any kind of issue that we have.
Yes, indeed. And like you said in the beginning, going from experimentation to really production-ready state, that's, I think, the biggest challenge, because that, especially in a highly regulated environment like ours, comes with a lot of additional challenges. So not just how to deploy it, how to embed it in an application landscape, but also what are the risks? How do we basically cover or mitigate the risks? How do we monitor? How do we address all regulatory requirements? And what does this in the end mean also for the use cases we might have in mind, but potentially are not feasible because of that?
Yes, actually, if we are trying now, and we are doing our first steps using Agentic AI in actual processes. And I would say that's a whole different animal than using AI for analytics purposes and maybe for marketing purposes, because you are actually giving AI then the responsibility of making decisions. And what we have to do, according to the regulator and the EU AI Act and the law, is being able to explain why an AI agent decided this or that outcome. Are we going to allow a client to take on a mortgage, or are we not going to allow it? And that's an issue, I would say, that is not really solved yet to be tackled automatically. We can use one AI agent looking after the other, and then we have some kind of control, and we can do it manually, maybe take some samples and see what AI did in this and that case, but it's not yet solved in a very general way. And that's still one big thing we have to work on.
Yeah, you mentioned this requirement, especially for financial institutions, for explainable AI. Now we see, on the other hand, that a lot of the technology being used are more or less black box models. Yeah, I mean, GenAI is not really explainable. Neural networks are not really explainable. So does that mean that you, or how do you treat that? Yeah? Do you restrict the technology? Do you say, okay, for a credit application, I can only use models that are explainable, or how do you work with that?
I wouldn't put it that way, because if we try to use models that are explainable and nothing else, then we wouldn't be able to even explore the LLM possibilities. From what I see, we are doing our first steps, and as long as we are doing our first steps, we are still able to control the models, let's say manually, and have humans watch the models. And for the future, what we are starting to do now, we are starting collaborations with universities that are also doing research on that specific topic. So they can hopefully help us get a grip on that.
And which role does all that topic around monitoring and observability play in that regard? Because we see like a lot of companies these days investing a lot of money, or also time to set up telemetry for agentic AI to understand what happens in which step. Is that also something that helps you in that regard to explain what models and agents are doing?
Yes, to a certain extent. It definitely helps for monitoring. And we also use it as kind of a challenger. So we call it LLM as a judge, where we have models challenging models. Let's, for example, take the chatbot as example that we have in some countries already based on the LLM. All the conversations are also actively monitored and challenged if there was a behavior that we don't want as ING towards our customers. And we have a few other controls afterwards as well, right? Which also in the end means a few people have a look on or do random checks on what happened in these conversations, maybe label a specific pieces of conversations that need to be better next time or that go in the wrong direction. So we have multiple layers, multiple lines of defense, especially with those customer-facing systems, but also for internal systems. We always try to have all the guardrails in place that we can imagine. We have a lot of tests. We have, again, the LLM as a judge.
And which role in these multiple lines of defense does then the human play? Like, for example, if you talk about agentic AI, you're always talking about processes where you have subject matter experts, usually like a bank clerk or someone else. And does it also need some new skills? How do you approach that?
That's something we need to learn. So they are definitely part of the project because, of course, they have the knowledge. They also are the ones to assess whether the output is correct or not. And in the end, we learn, right? Especially agentic is new, really new still. Even GenAI is relatively new still. And we need to learn how much can we rely on that? How much does it help in the business? Those innovation-related topics are always a change. And change also means change for people, right? Change for, like you said, their skills and so on. But change comes also with concerns often, right? And that's something that's also important that needs time, that we need to address. You need trainings or general education on those topics to help people, what it means for their day-to-day routine and how they can benefit from it, how they can be more efficient or even more effective in what they do. If we assume back office people, that can be, how can they be faster? How can we automate more or help them to make better decisions? Same in sales, for example. How can they be more accurate or more effective in reaching out?
We do have some internal AI projects also. I can give one example when there are very, let's say, complicated regulations for different countries and maybe internal ING regulations. And in addition to regulations by law, then it can be overwhelming for a clerk to make a decision. And when they onboard a customer, what kind of due diligence do they have to do? And there we developed a tool that can help, and that can help, let's say, guide the employees through this document jungle and extract what's relevant for a special use case. But yes, you're right. Everyone has to learn about what can I do and what is my responsibility in the process. No? Up to now, a clerk was responsible to make a customer happy, giving them the right answer. Now they still are, because not every use case and not every request can be answered by a chatbot. Sometimes people want to talk to a human, and we should allow that. Additionally, they are responsible to control the AI, so they have to know what is an appropriate answer. How can I correct the system?
It's interesting. So what you're mentioning is that you have to develop like a data and AI culture internally, and you already mentioned training as an important part. What else? Yeah, so what do you do to like onboard, maybe the wrong word, your colleagues? Yeah, what do you do to develop more people embracing AI, really using it in the end, generating more benefit out of it? What's your approach there?
Communication. And I think it's all about communication. And we also offer Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. Maybe not everyone has it, but you can play around with it, right? And that's also how you start to learn what are the advantages. So people get more familiar with what's possible. The level of fear might decrease a bit because of that, because they see the advantage and what they can do and how it helps them to be more, again, efficient in what they do. So personal productivity can increase, they can be faster, can get away the more boring tasks they might have, or at least get help from that. Again, then also under the conditions of data protection and all those things that we need to keep in mind. So that's also an important part, right? You cannot just communicate all the nice advantages and benefits people get, but also what are the risks that are connected with this if you use LLMs, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Communication is always cornerstone to developer culture. With you internally, what are the most effective ways to communicate? How do you reach the people, or what did you learn? Yeah, what worked, what didn't?
Okay, so maybe I can try to answer this one from my experience, not only in the bank, but also as a consultant I used to be. What does not always work is when one expert tells everyone else what to do and what not to do. That can be maybe the beginning of something, but it won't be very successful when you want to reach many people. But let's say user groups that are exchanging their experiences more in a more informal way, that helps. For instance, like Frank mentioned with Microsoft Copilot, there are some people who just created their special agent solving an email problem they have or anything. I wouldn't be able to state you these not they said, but then when I was in these rounds, I noticed that these very specific examples created a high interest in many people, and then they exchanged their very specific ways of working. So that seems a really good way. Not having one expert telling everybody else what to do, but as now AI is more democratized than before, also the communication can be more democratized.
Very, very good experiences. Thank you. I have one question in mind, since you are really at the forefront of building this, deploying this, etc. We hear more and more people in your roles really struggling with the speed of technical development. That's like you need certain time to develop something, roll it out, educate the people, and so on. And halfway through that process, you have already completely new capabilities in GenAI foundation models or in other systems. How do you work with it? First of all, is it a problem also for you? Secondly, what do you do about it?
Yes, definitely that's a topic and also a challenge. So what we not do is always immediately jump on the next new model version even. Still, we usually immediately start to assess. So we have kind of a process where we assess, okay, does this model work? Will we have performance issues or whatever? So at some point it will be whitelisted for further use. It comes with another challenge because often the newest version is the one being supported. Also from compute power perspective, that's what we experience. This means if you are still using a lower version, you might have less resources you can count on. And being in a production system then already, that of course can trigger a lot of issues as well if the compute power is not there anymore because you are behind with your model version.
Maybe I would give a more pragmatic answer, a more pragmatic approach, because if you have 10 use cases to accomplish on your project list, and if you are doing one use case over and over and over and over again, because you're always trying to use the very newest technology there is on the market, then you have one use case that's top notch maybe, or maybe you don't ever finish it, and you have 9 more use cases you didn't work on. Just use what's best for you now, see where it takes you, and learn for the future. So I have a more pragmatic approach.
Yeah, but I like the appeal. Just get started with it, because if you don't get started, you can wait forever until your AI is solved
And
in a way.
like we said earlier, the real issue is not to use always the newest product, but the real challenge is to be able to put it into production and get results out of it. And the pipelines you build will probably work for the newer version of the models. So that's the main issue I see.
And did you, like, around all that, did you build like something like an MLOps process already, maybe something you are building on, which you had earlier, because we had like data ops in the past, you had ML ops in the past, and also the software, the engineers obviously had their DevOps experiences and so on. Is there something you could learn from, and does that help you with all that change in the background?
Like I said earlier a bit regarding the LLM as a judge, LLM ops in general, right? So that's what we try to combine in the end, that we also use basic standards of software development when it comes to embedding analytics, no matter if classic analytics or GenAI and so on, into a production environment, right? You cannot just deploy it and then hope for the best. You really need everything in place. You also need the standards in place, controls in place. You need to do your risk work and so on and so forth. So from that perspective, we just adapt everything that was there in the past and also try to fit the new technologies and so on as best as possible into this, because otherwise I would be quite concerned, right? I would not expect us to be in control of what we build.
We didn't hear the word agent yet, which surprised me a little bit. But obviously, that's for many organizations, that's the next step in AI, to think about more.
To be honest,
Oh, sorry.
I did.
Then I want to hear more about it. So what's going on? Is that, first of all, is it on your roadmap, or it is obviously, but how do you treat it? How do you approach it? Are there certain use cases you find it like for first steps being especially easy or beneficial to use them? Let's hear more about your approach to the whole topic of agentic AI.
I will give you a general answer. It's definitely on the roadmap, but as Frank also explained earlier, it's always a trade-off between new technology and safety issues. Especially when it comes to agentic AI, when you have too much agent talking to each other and taking decisions, it becomes very untraceable. So we have to put guardrails in place, and we have to make sure we know what kind of decisions and what kind of freedoms can one AI agent have. I would say it's innovative, yet still kind of safety concerned response.
My specific question would be, did you already find an idea or framework on architecture for, I think one of the main tasks is now combining like probabilistic and deterministic workflows. I think that's for many right now the thing, that you can have this pointed agent that maybe take certain decisions, but we had that also before. We had to model basically taking a decision or preparing it. But like if you think about more complex or bigger workflows, then typically we have probabilistic and deterministic parts of it. And that's where I see a lot of things happening, especially also in banks, that they start to combine now workflow engines, rules-based approaches, plus GenAI-based things. Is that's something where you're already working on?
Yes. So we have projects looking into this. We also approach it step by step. So like I said, having already a landscape with multiple agents being involved, that would be quite complex for the first step. So starting with one agent that comes with that, what you expect from an LLM, right? But also then having APIs in place where you just trigger the action. I think that's in the end what makes the difference, right? When it comes to the agent itself, most of the magic is done by the cloud providers, I would say. And the rest, and that's the important part that we also have, is a lot of software engineering, basically. You need your backends in place, you need your processes clear, not just tech, but also data, and the process itself is important. That needs to be in place. So we also do a kind of readiness assessment, I would say, to see if a process is yet ready to be rebuilt or optimized via agentic flows or not. Because otherwise, if the foundation is not there, you can try a lot with agents or GenAI. Likelihood that you're successful is not very high.
Did you find a certain type or class of processes being especially suitable for agentic usage, or maybe a certain area of the business, maybe more customer facing or more internal or more regulatory? I mean, is there something that sticks out as a pattern?
We're there just at the beginning, I would say. So we have a few areas that we assess. Usually it's those where a lot of manual steps are involved and where you can translate those steps into something that agents also could do then, right? And again, where you also have the data and the backend available, or at least where you can develop it.
I can give you maybe a personal view where I would like to try out agents. I would like to try out agents when it comes to the governance work and the documentation work our engineers have to do. I would like an agent to extract most of the needed information that is needed and be able to put it into the necessary, let's say, forms instead of engineers doing it manually. I would like that to happen, but I don't think there is any boundary to where can we use the agent. I don't think it's a domain or a specific topic. It's more what risk are we willing to take? How risky is the use of the agent, and how much benefit can it create? I would say it's more this kind of approach. Whatever you try to do and automate with an agent. Of course, when it's customer facing, you have more risk and also probably more profit. So we always have to do this assessment. And that's not an IT thing, that is more a business thing. So it's not really my place to answer this specific question.
Yeah, maybe you contribute to the answer, because that's another big topic for many, is like how to measure and communicate the value and the benefits of AI. We see more and more organizations coming under pressure that they also have to now show the impact of the investments into AI. I'm sure that's your noddings. I'm sure that's something you are also confronted with. What do you do there?
So if we take the chatbot X example, of course, we also measure how does it land with the customers, what's the deflection rate, how many cases does the chatbot solve basically itself, what does still end up in a call center at the end, or customers are happy afterwards with that, what the chatbot gave him or how he communicated and so on, right? That, of course, also in the end differs per project. How can KPIs look like, basically? What do we want to measure, right? It's not always the same. And we always try to do a bit of a discovery phase in the beginning to see how much can we get out of it in a smaller scope, how much is it able to scale in the end before we start just a big project that consumes a lot of effort and money and time.
To be honest, it has always been that way with AI and with machine learning. You as a data scientist, you were building a model as best you could, and then you saw, oh, maybe it's not what I was looking for, and then you start looking maybe for new data to use and better information to have. Like Frank explained about the KPIs, we have to decide what do we even want to measure, and then, like we said earlier, it's a way forward. Like we have to start somewhere and then improve on the way. Always the same answer, I'm afraid.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I think at that stage, we've got bad news and good news. The bad news is that our episode is slowly coming to an end, but the good news is that we can continue our conversation on June 16 and 17 on the DATA Festival in Munich. And we are really happy to have you on the stage there. You already gave a glimpse on the organizational kind of perspective on the AI topic. So I guess you're talking a bit more about that in your talk, but maybe you can give us a quick teaser, quick outlook. What can participants expect?
Well, you will see Frank and me working together locally and globally and finding common ways and common ground.
Yes, because in the end, it's not just about data processes and technology. It's also about, like we said, about the people and the organization you build around it in order to be successful at the end. And that's also what we want to share.
That sounds super interesting. I'm looking forward to it. So I see you soon in Munich.
Yes, see you in Munich.